Welcome to Inspiring Teachers, a show bringing you classroom tips, motivation, and stories from successful educators. Join Tavis Bean and Danny Hauger as they explore the why of teaching.
Welcome to an episode of Danny Hauger Podcast here with you in studio and in the classroom. So it's a bit of Inspiring Teachers here as well. And I've been exploring lots of different career paths for my high school students, talking about things to get them inspired in their career paths and to consider what they might be able to apply their skills and talents to. And joining me from the Deuce and Mo Podcast, Sacramento native, and one of the most inspirational people I think we have in Northern California, Morgan Ragan is joining me today. Morgan, how's everything going?
So good. Too kind. What a good lead up. Thanks.
No. It's all right. I mean, it was okay. Morgan, I've been watching your work with the podcasting that you do and with the Kings organization. And I'm just fired up because I'm always looking for people, and I hope this comes out the right way, but like for my female students, positive role models, people who are earning a living and also making an impact on their community for positive traits and skills and abilities and the ability to conversate. And I just think you represent that so well. So I'm glad you would take a few minutes today to talk.
Yeah, of course. No, it's one of those things. I love being a part of any women groups within the community as well, because I just, I think it's so important that we empower women, especially where women have been for so long, especially when it comes to the sports industry. So it's cool when you can get behind a whole bunch of women within your own community.
Oh, totally. I mean, that's how progress moves forward, right? And you've had so much success from color analyst work, TV and radio and podcasting. Who was it that got you inspired? Was it someone in your life, a family member, a teacher? Who got you thinking about your potential and that you might pursue this road that has been male dominated for a long time and is turning, right? We're seeing much more talent and much more balance in the last decade or so. But who was it that kind of got you interested in the concept?
Yeah, I think in high school, I loved basketball and I loved media so much. And we had a media class or program within our high school at the time. And so I loved doing in front of the camera work. And that was just me. Now, the basketball side of things, though, I'd say that was more of my parents. I had two older brothers. They played football, soccer, a little bit of basketball, but I fell in love with basketball. So my dad's like, well, if you're all in, I'm all in. And so it just started with him doing his research on basketball and how I can get better. And there's so many times where you want to quit, especially when all the girls around you growing up are quitting because whether just coaches are terrible throughout high school programs, or not all, I'm just saying when they are,
right.
And or there's just not a lot of encouragement there. And so for me, I would say it was my parents that helped push me along. But then as I grew up, it was someone like Doris Burke was someone who, you hear her speak, you see what she's doing, and she's doing that in a time when it was much harder for women in sports. And so that's when I was like, oh, okay, you don't give up, you keep going.
Oh, for sure. We had Doris on last year, and her professionalism is the epitome of what you look at, textbook how to do the work and how to do it well. And two, also expressing kindness and strength together. You just respect her right away the first time you see her work.
Wait, you had Doris on last year?
Yeah, she's awesome. You should totally, I'm sure you've had her on the podcast at some point, right?
We interviewed her once for a different Sacramento Kings podcast. Cool. And it was one of my favorite interviews to ever do. And actually I saw her on the streets of Sacramento one time. It was before a Kings game, before I was going there. Mm-hmm. No joke, pulled my car over in a red zone and chased her down just to tell her how much she's inspired me. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, a little creepy, but it was cool for me.
It was coming from the right place.
Yes.
What's your favorite part about the work that you do?
My favorite part, I love basketball so much, and it's funny because we're doing a sports podcast, the Deuce and Mo Podcast, and we're actually doing one tonight, and it's very football heavy because obviously it's basketball, football, baseball, everything. But, just calling the games for the NBA G League team, the Stockton Kings, mm-hmm. and being able to analyze a game that you have grown to play and watch and coach for so many years of your lives and kind of go back into it like that, it's just a dream come true. It's the coolest thing I could be doing in my life. I love it.
Oh man, that's so cool. And I'm a little jealous too. I mean, that was my first job out there with the Stockton Ports and the arena.
So
And it's
cool.
kind of been cool. I was there opening day handing out pins. And when you're young and like in your teenage years, that's such a cool first job. It's such like an Americana piece of like, wow, I really got to do that. And like forget that it was $6.25 an hour, but just where you were like watching baseball. And I had no intention of going into sports. I went from Stockton Ports, then I went to Cal State Fullerton, and I did play-by-play for the basketball team and baseball teams. And then suddenly I was working with the Angels, and I'm like, for someone who was not that into baseball, I'm really seeing it a lot. You know,
Yeah.
Mike Trout's first day was my first day there. So I'm cruising around with Trout, like, he's like, where's the, the clubhouse entry? I'm like, oh, sure, follow me. I didn't know. And we're like cruising around together, like opening doors. Like, that's not it. That's not it. This guy's going to think I'm just the greatest, worker ever. But it's cool that the work that you do is kind of associated with play, right? You get to have a good time. You get to have fun. You do hard work and you're working constantly and you're traveling and you're covering miles, but how great is it to do the work or, what are some of the things that you enjoy about what you get to do?
Yeah, no, I love even you pointing out, even handing out those pins and putting it in perspective, even when you're there and then going to the Angels and realizing you're walking around with Mike Trout. It's the same concept. It's like some of those really cool moments. I got to run a youth basketball clinic with Chris Webber. And when I was in the fifth grade, right, I used to practice his smile, his cricket smile when I was in
I love
grade.
that side smile. Yeah, I love that so much. I love it.
I used to wear his dadas. I would do
Me too.
grade reports on him. See?
Remember when you'd walk outside and the sun would hit him? It would be like you were giving off a planet's glow.
Oh, yes.
Like that was awesome.
Yeah, all the patent leather on there. Yeah,
So
it was
fun.
It was so like being able to do something like that as when you're older. It's not even that I would like when I was younger. I'd be like, oh, I'd be so nervous if I ever met him. But then you're older in this space, and you're like, you put in perspective, and you're like, wow, 10-year-old Morgan would be freaking out. Where I am freaking out, but enjoying it and putting perspective of what I've worked toward. Yeah.
So what would you motivate? That's a beautiful story for people who are watching this, my students, other people, young people that are watching. What words of advice do you have to pursue their interests, whether they be sports or broadcasting or otherwise? What are some things that have helped you, Morgan?
So I would say, just in the realm of sports, because I've always wanted to do broadcasting, but there's so little jobs within broadcasting. So it's hard. So you got to make sure to do things that you love. So I would say take any chance, any opportunity, any internship with whether it's a news station sports related internship or a radio station or a baseball, soccer, basketball team, whatever it may be. But the most important part, and I will say this forever, is building those relationships and like genuine relationships. It's not being like, oh, they do this, so I'm going to ask them if they can get me this job. It's no, you have to build that relationship, a genuine relationship. And if it's not there, that's fine. You have to meet more and more people throughout your life and your career.
That's really cool. And so being open to collaboration, giving more than you take, right? Being willing to work first and ask for something later, I found was very important. And finding the right balance. I worked for the Angels for 5 years and I did Stanford baseball too. Knowing when you have been valuable and asking when you think you have something more to contribute, but it's also being a team player and not always asking for things, showing that you're doing the work and ready to put in the time, right? Because there's a certain amount of that as well.
Yes. Oh, and it's so hard sometimes because people go, well, I can be doing more. But it's patience too, right? It's like,
it's a balance.
Yes. It's knowing like, okay, this is my role. This is my job. Let's execute it. Let's do the best we can in it. And then if something grows from there. Now, if nothing's growing from there, that's when you choose to reevaluate what you're doing and go, okay, I need to quit and focus 100% on this or that and to achieve your dream.
Yeah, I love that. It's knowing the difference between a cul-de-sac and a dead end, right? And knowing how to reshift into something more positive. Morgan, you've given us a ton of advice. Just have one more question. If you could talk to yourself as a sophomore or a junior in high school, what would you tell yourself knowing what you know now?
Oh, that is so tough. Well, let's see. I think I would have been more like, I was obsessed with media and basketball, but I wish in some ways I was even more obsessed because I think that's truly how you put your heart and soul in it. And, in high school, but then again, you're young in high school, and there's boyfriends and girlfriends and friends that you want to commit to and hang out with. And that's just how life is going to go sometimes. But looking back, I go, man, if I didn't hang out with my boyfriend at that time and went and practiced my free throws instead, where could have my career gone into overseas play or something? And I know I have no regrets, but it's just being obsessed with that media, with the basketball when I was that young, and really knowing, okay, I have all this information in front of me on the internet. Now, what am I going to do to achieve it all, right?
Yeah, no, that's so beautifully true. Don't regret, but you do think, right?
Yes.
You do consider and you wonder, and it's led you to wonderful things. And look where you are now. You're doing great. You're inspiring us. I'm always fired up. I love the work you do. You do an excellent job. And it makes me happy to see other people doing an excellent job in broadcasting, because I love play-by-play and color commentary so much. And I just want to thank you for sharing those insights and thoughts and having this genuine connection on this show. And I know it's going to mean a lot to the people that see it. So thanks for giving some time out of your day to join us.
Thank you so much for reaching out. Seriously, appreciate you doing this. And for everyone out there.
Of course, that's Morgan Ragan. You can catch her on the Deuce and Mo Podcast. And don't forget to follow her on Twitter as well at Mo Ragan, MOMORAGAN. And Morgan, thanks so much, and keep rocking it. Keep doing what you're doing, and have a great season with the Kings and in Stockton this year too.
Thank you.